Sometimes we think change only comes from massive leaps, from those dramatic movie-style moments where someone suddenly decides to turn their entire life around overnight. But the truth is far less glamorous and far more powerful. Real change, lasting change, is almost always the result of tiny, almost invisible choices that compound over time. It's the coffee you skip today because you're saving for something meaningful. It's the 5 extra push-ups you do when no one's watching. It's choosing to read for 10 minutes instead of scrolling through social media for an hour. These tiny little habits are the seeds that quietly grow into the forest of your future. The problem is most people underestimate their power because they seem so small, so insignificant in the moment. But here's what I've learned. Small habits are like drops of water. One drop looks like nothing, but if you keep dripping water on a rock day after day, that rock will eventually carve out a path. That's how change works. It's not an explosion. It's erosion, steady and unstoppable. I want you to picture your life as a big puzzle. Every small decision, every repeated action is a piece of that puzzle. Alone, one piece doesn't look like much, but put them together consistently, and suddenly, a clear picture begins to form. The truth is, your future self is being built right now through these tiny daily decisions. Every time you take an action, you're casting a vote for the kind of person you want to become. When you choose to get up early, even if it's just 10 minutes earlier, you're voting for discipline. When you decide to drink water instead of soda, you're voting for health. When you choose to write down your goals instead of leaving them in your head, you're voting for focus and clarity. Each vote might not feel powerful on its own, but with enough votes, a new identity starts to emerge. That's where transformation begins, not with massive change, but with micro choices repeated consistently. Think about it. Every great achievement, every dream come true, every success story you've ever heard of started with a single small step that looked completely ordinary at the time. The writer who published a bestseller? They started by writing just 1 page a day. The athlete who won gold? They began by lacing up their shoes and showing up to practice when no one was watching. The entrepreneur who built a successful business? They began by making 1 call, sending 1 email, taking 1 risk. The difference between people who dream and those who achieve is not luck. It's the courage to start small and the consistency to never stop. Most people give up because they don't see results fast enough. They plant a seed today, and if a tree doesn't grow tomorrow, they walk away. But you and I, we're not like most people. We understand that progress doesn't shout. It whispers. The first few days, nothing seems to change. The first few weeks, it feels pointless. But behind the scenes, something powerful is happening. Momentum. Habits are like snowballs rolling down a hill. At first, they're tiny, barely noticeable. But as they keep rolling, they gather more snow, they pick up speed, and before you know it, they're unstoppable. The trick is to keep that snowball moving. Don't underestimate the small actions that feel too easy, because those are the ones that quietly build your foundation. That extra minute of gratitude in the morning, it reshapes your mindset. That 1-page journal entry, it sharpens your self-awareness. That 1 glass of water before bed, it trains your discipline. These aren't random acts. They're bricks in the structure of your best self. The biggest reason people fail to change is because they wait for motivation to strike. But motivation is unreliable. It's like a guest who shows up late and leaves early. What you need is momentum, and momentum is built through repetition, even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. Think of a train sitting still on its tracks. To get it moving, it takes a massive burst of energy just to overcome inertia. But once it's in motion, it can go miles with minimal effort. That's exactly how habits work. The hardest part is the beginning. The first few days are tough, the first week feels uncomfortable, but once you start moving, everything becomes easier. You no longer need to push yourself, you start to get pulled by your own momentum. You become the kind of person who just does it. You don't think twice. You don't debate with yourself. You simply act because it's who you are now. That's what small habits do. They reprogram your identity. It's not about doing more. It's about becoming more. And to become more, you don't need to reinvent your entire life overnight. You just need to start where you are, with what you have, and take 1 small step today. Because if you can't master the small, you'll never sustain the big. So as you listen to my voice right now, I want you to pause and think. What's 1 small habit that could change everything for you if you just stuck with it for a year? Maybe it's waking up 30 minutes earlier. Maybe it's writing 1 line in a journal. Maybe it's choosing gratitude over complaint. Whatever it is, that's your starting point. Don't wait for the perfect moment because it doesn't exist. The perfect moment is when you decide to start. And that moment could be right now. Because the secret is, small habits don't just change your schedule, they change your story. They turn ordinary people into extraordinary ones. They build strength quietly, confidence gradually, and success inevitably. So today, I'm asking you not to aim for a big change, but to make a tiny one and protect it fiercely. Because that's how every big transformation begins. With something so small, most people overlook it. But you won't. You're here because you're ready to take control of your life one habit at a time. You see, the beauty of these tiny habits isn't just in the action itself. It's in what they silently whisper to your brain every time you do them. Every time you keep a small promise to yourself, you're telling your mind, I can be trusted. And that, my friend, is where real power begins. You start believing in your ability to follow through. You start respecting yourself more. And that self-respect? It becomes the fuel that drives every other improvement in your life. Because success isn't built on discipline alone, it's built on self-trust. Think about it. How many times have you said you'd start something tomorrow, only to push it further and further away? Every time that happens, a small piece of your confidence chips away. But every time you actually do what you said you'd do, even in the smallest way, you rebuild that confidence stronger than before. The key is to make your habits so simple that you can't say no to them. Want to read more? Start with one paragraph. Want to get fit? Do 5 push-ups. Want to meditate? Start with 1 minute. Make it so ridiculously small that your brain can't find an excuse. Because once you start, something magical happens. You'll want to keep going. Momentum breeds motivation, not the other way around. The biggest lie people believe is that they need to feel ready before taking action. But action doesn't come after motivation. Motivation comes after action. Every single time you take a small step, you create a spark of progress, and that spark lights up the path ahead. You start to see results, not necessarily physical ones at first, but mental ones. You feel a shift in your identity. You begin to see yourself as the kind of person who follows through, who grows, who improves. That's the real transformation. When your identity starts to change, your habits naturally follow. You're not forcing yourself anymore. You're simply being who you are. Let me tell you something powerful. Every small habit carries a story about the future version of you. When you make your bed every morning, you're not just tidying up a room, you're training yourself to value order, structure, and discipline. When you choose to drink more water, you're not just hydrating your body, you're communicating to yourself that your health matters. When you take 10 minutes to plan your day, you're not just making a to-do list, you're declaring that your time has purpose. These actions might look small, but they're writing the script of your future identity. You're no longer reacting to life, you're designing it. I've met so many people who say, I want to change, but I don't know where to start. My answer is always the same. Start small, but start. Because once you take that first step, the next one gets easier. Let me share an example. Imagine you want to start running. You don't need to run 5 miles on day 1. Just put on your shoes and step outside. That's it. Do it again tomorrow. The point isn't distance, the point is consistency. Because the first few days your body resists. But after a week, your mind starts to crave that little victory. Your body begins to adapt, your mindset starts to shift, and suddenly, what once felt hard begins to feel natural. That's the quiet revolution of habits. They rewire your brain without asking for permission. The same applies to every area of your life. Want to improve your relationships? Start with one message of appreciation every day. Want to learn something new? Spend 5 minutes watching a meaningful video or reading a few pages. Want to manage stress better? Take 2 deep breaths when you feel overwhelmed. These aren't grand gestures, but over time they become your emotional armor. You see, we often underestimate the power of small things because we're addicted to instant results. We want the transformation, but not the process. But life doesn't reward intensity, it rewards consistency. The gym doesn't change your body in a day. Reading 1 book doesn't make you wise. But reading a few pages every night for years, that rewires your mind. The gym sessions you show up for even when you're tired, that reshapes your body and your discipline. What you repeat, you become. That's the truth. So stop waiting for motivation and start building rhythm. Habits are rhythm. They're the beat that your future dances to. And if you can control that rhythm, you can control the song your life plays. I know there will be days when you'll feel like quitting. Days when you'll wonder if it's even worth it. But remember this, small habits don't just change outcomes. They change who you believe you are. You'll start noticing yourself thinking differently. You'll find yourself calmer, more focused, more resilient. You'll start trusting your future instead of fearing it. Because deep down, you'll know you're becoming someone who doesn't stop. Someone who grows even when no one's watching. Someone who takes pride in the process. So don't think small habits are too little to matter. That's like saying one drop of water can't shape a rock, or one spark can't start a fire. Every great change in history began with something small that someone refused to ignore. Be that someone. Protect your small habits like they're sacred because they are. They're the roots of your transformation. And roots, my friend, are what make trees unshakable. You might not see the growth immediately, but it's happening beneath the surface. Your new self is already taking shape, you just have to keep watering it. Every day, every choice, every action. Because tiny habits, done consistently, lead to monumental change. Here's something I want you to really absorb. Your life is a reflection of your habits, not your goals. Everyone has goals. Everyone wants to be successful, healthy, happy, confident, but not everyone builds the habits that align with those desires. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And your systems are nothing but a collection of your daily habits. If you want to change your life, you have to stop focusing on the outcome and start focusing on the process. Because the process is where your life actually happens. Think about it. If your goal is to run a marathon, the race day is just one moment. The true transformation happens in the hundreds of small runs, early mornings, and quiet decisions that no one else sees. It's not the finish line that changes you. It's the steps that got you there. The same applies to everything you want to achieve. Want to be financially free? It's not one big paycheck that makes the difference. It's every small saving habit, every decision to spend wisely, every choice to learn something about money. Want to build confidence? It's not one speech or one victory. It's every small act of courage, every time you speak up, every time you keep a promise to yourself. Tiny habits create invisible progress, and invisible progress eventually becomes unstoppable momentum. But here's the tricky part. When you're making these tiny improvements, they often go unnoticed for a long time. That's where most people give up. They mistake the quiet phase of growth for failure. But if you've ever watched a bamboo tree grow, you'll understand what's really happening. For the first few years after you plant a bamboo seed, nothing seems to happen. You water it, nurture it, and wait, but there's no sign of growth above the ground. Then suddenly, in the 5th year, it shoots up more than 80 feet in just a few weeks. Did it really grow overnight? Of course not. It was growing underground the entire time, developing a root system strong enough to support that massive growth later. That's exactly how your habits work. The small actions you take today are building your roots. You might not see visible change yet, but your foundation is strengthening. So when the time comes, your growth will be unstoppable. But here's the key. You have to keep watering even when nothing seems to grow. You have to keep trusting the process even when it feels slow. Because slow progress is still progress. The most successful people aren't the ones who do the most. They're the ones who don't stop. They understand that every day they stick to their tiny habits, they're compounding invisible gains that will one day explode into visible success. It's like compound interest for your soul. Let's take an example. If you improve yourself by just 1% every day, by the end of 1 year, you won't be 365% better, you'll be 37 times better. That's the magic of compounding. Small improvements don't add up. They multiply. That's why small habits matter so much, they give you leverage. Most people look for big wins, but the smart ones build small wins every day. Those small wins create momentum, and momentum creates transformation. Let's make this real with a metaphor. Think of your life as a huge ship in the ocean. A tiny shift in the rudder just a few degrees might seem meaningless at first. But travel far enough and that tiny shift changes your entire destination. That's what tiny habits do. They look small, but over time they redirect the entire course of your life. The hardest part is trusting that the little things matter. Because the mind craves visible proof, it gets impatient. It says, why bother eating healthy today? One meal won't make a difference. Or, why read for 10 minutes? It won't make me smarter overnight. But that's the trap. The same way one bad meal won't ruin you, one good meal won't save you either. What matters is repetition. What matters is identity. Every time you repeat a habit, You reinforce who you're becoming. Each repetition is like hammering a nail deeper into the structure of your new self. Eventually, that structure becomes unshakable. So here's what I want you to do. Instead of asking, what big change should I make? Just start asking, what small thing can I do every day that aligns with who I want to be? Maybe it's saying no to distractions. Maybe it's walking for 10 minutes after dinner. Maybe it's complimenting one person daily. These little things don't just add happiness or health, they train your brain to think differently. They shift your energy from wishing to doing. And once you start doing, even in tiny doses, life starts responding. Because the universe rewards consistency. It rewards faith in the process. It rewards those who show up even when it's boring, even when it's hard, even when no one claps. The truth is, no one's going to celebrate your early mornings or your small wins, but those moments are your secret advantage. They're the hidden foundation of greatness. When others quit, you'll keep going. When others chase shortcuts, you'll build systems. And one day, your overnight success will shock everyone. But you'll know it wasn't overnight. It was the result of countless quiet, consistent days. So don't despise the days of small beginnings. They're the most important days of your life. Every big victory you'll ever have starts with a small, often unnoticed act of discipline. These tiny little habits are not just actions, they're declarations. They say, I'm becoming better. They say, I'm not who I was yesterday. They say, I am in control of my future. So keep going, even when no one notices, even when progress feels invisible, because your time is coming. Your habits are building a version of you that you haven't even met yet. And when you finally meet that version, you'll be grateful you never stopped. Let's go deeper now, because this is where transformation really begins to take root. You've understood that small habits build momentum, that consistency creates identity. But here's the next step. You have to design your environment to make these tiny habits almost automatic. You see, willpower alone won't carry you forever. Motivation fades, discipline gets tired, but your environment silently shapes your behavior every single day. If you want to eat healthier, don't rely on willpower, make it easy. Put fruits where you can see them. Keep junk food out of sight. If you want to read more, leave your book on the pillow before bed. If you want to wake up early, put your alarm clock across the room so you're forced to get up. Don't fight your environment, build it to support your habits. Because your surroundings either pull you forward or pull you down, and you get to choose which one it is. Tiny habits thrive in a supportive environment. Think of it like gardening. You can plant the best seeds in the world, but if the soil is dry and full of weeds, nothing will grow. The same goes for your habits. You have to create fertile soil for growth. Remove distractions, simplify your space, and make the good habits obvious while making the bad ones invisible. That's the secret most people overlook. Change doesn't start with effort. It starts with design. When your environment makes good behavior easy, success becomes inevitable. But there's something else I want to tell you, something that separates those who grow from those who stay stuck. It's the mindset of patience. Patience is the secret ingredient of growth. Most people quit not because the habit didn't work, but because they didn't give it enough time to work. We live in a world that worships speed. We want fast results, instant gratification, quick rewards. But nature doesn't operate on speed. It operates on seasons. You can't rush a harvest. You can't dig up a seed every few days to check if it's growing. You plant, you water, you trust. The same rule applies to your habits. Give them time to root deeply. The moment you start judging your progress too early, you sabotage your own growth. Think of a sculptor carving a statue out of marble. Each strike of the hammer looks small, almost meaningless, but after thousands of strikes, the masterpiece emerges. Every small action you take, every habit you build, is one of those strikes. Alone, it may look like nothing, but together, they shape the masterpiece of your life. So don't get impatient. You're chiseling greatness out of the raw material of your daily routine. Keep chiseling. Keep shaping. Because the magic always happens after the point where most people quit. Let's talk about something practical now, how to actually lock in these habits so they stick. The trick is to connect them to something you already do. This is called habit stacking. For example, after brushing your teeth, meditate for 1 minute. After making your morning coffee, write down one thing you're grateful for. After you sit down at your desk, review your to-do list. When you attach a new habit to an existing one, it becomes effortless. You don't have to remember, it becomes part of your rhythm. You're essentially using your brain's existing pathways to create new ones. And when your brain runs on rhythm instead of resistance, progress becomes second nature. Another powerful thing you can do is to celebrate small wins. Don't wait for the big victory, acknowledge the tiny ones. Every time you complete a habit, give yourself a small nod, a mental yes. That little hit of pride strengthens the neural pathway that says, this feels good. Let's do it again. You're literally training your brain to crave good behavior. Small celebration, big impact. And here's a truth that's easy to forget. You don't have to do it perfectly, you just have to do it consistently. Miss a day? Fine, just don't miss twice. Perfection isn't the goal, persistence is. Progress isn't about never falling. It's about never giving up. Think of a pilot flying a plane. They're off course 90% of the time due to wind and weather, but they constantly adjust. That's what you must do, adjust, not abandon. If you fail one day, forgive yourself and realign. Success is not the absence of mistakes, it's the presence of persistence. You keep showing up even when it's boring, even when it's tough, because habits built through struggle are the ones that stay strong. Now let's talk about something deeper, belief. Because no habit can survive if your beliefs stay small. You must believe you are capable of change. You must believe you are worthy of success. Tiny habits work not just because of what you do, but because of what they tell your mind about who you are. Every time you follow through, you're proving to yourself, I can change. I do have control. I am growing. That belief turns your small actions into unstoppable momentum. It's like lighting a candle in a dark room. Suddenly, everything looks clearer. You start to realize the power you've had all along. You don't need permission. You don't need perfect timing. You don't need luck. You just need tiny habits that build unshakable belief. And once belief takes root, nothing can stop you. That's how small habits create big changes. They don't just improve what you do, they transform who you think you are. And that's the most powerful shift of all. Because once your identity changes, your behavior follows naturally. You'll no longer say, I'm trying to be healthy. You'll say, I'm a healthy person. You'll no longer say, I'm trying to stay organized. You'll say, I'm an organized person. See the difference? It's not effort, it's identity. And once your identity catches up with your habits, success stops being a chase and becomes your nature. Now we've come to the part that truly matters, the transformation, the turning point where everything you've learned connects. Because if you've made it this far, you already understand something that most people never do. Greatness doesn't arrive in one grand moment, it's built quietly, one small decision at a time. The truth is, your future self is already waiting for you. But to meet that version, you have to start showing up for yourself every single day. Even when it's inconvenient, even when no one notices, even when it feels like nothing's happening. That's the bridge between who you are and who you want to be. Those tiny habits you repeat when no one's watching. Because real power isn't in doing something once. It's in doing it until it becomes a part of who you are. So, I want you to imagine something for a moment. Imagine it's 1 year from now. You're still you. Same life, same responsibilities, but everything feels lighter, smoother, more in control. You wake up earlier, not because you have to, but because your body naturally does. You speak with confidence because you've been building it through small, daily acts of courage. You feel calmer because you've been practicing gratitude every morning. You feel more focused because you've trained your brain through small, consistent routines. Nothing dramatic happened overnight, no miracle, no sudden luck. Just small, deliberate actions stacked on top of each other until the results became undeniable. That's what these tiny habits do. They make success inevitable. They make growth automatic. But the beautiful part is this. You don't have to wait a year to feel that change. You can start feeling it today. The moment you choose to act differently, even in the smallest way, you've already started changing. Because the hardest part is not the habit. It's the decision. Once you decide, truly decide, that you're done waiting for motivation, done waiting for someday, done waiting for the perfect time, you unlock a version of yourself that is unstoppable. And that version of you doesn't depend on luck or willpower, it depends on systems. Systems built on small, repeatable actions. Every single person you admire, from athletes to artists, leaders to entrepreneurs, built their success through daily systems. They may look extraordinary, but they all started with something ordinary. One small step, one small choice, one small habit. The difference is they didn't quit when it felt slow. They trusted the compound effect. You can too. You can decide today that you're done chasing big bursts of motivation that fade in days. Instead, you'll build small rituals that last for years. That's where the real magic lies. And listen, you're not going to be perfect, and that's okay. You'll miss days. You'll feel lazy sometimes. You'll fall back into old patterns occasionally. That doesn't mean you've failed, it means you're human. What matters is that you get back up one more time than you fall. That's how champions are made. That's how transformation sticks. Because failure only becomes permanent when you stop trying. If you keep showing up, even imperfectly, progress will find you. Remember what I said earlier, you're casting votes for your future self. Every habit is a vote. The more votes you cast, the stronger that identity becomes. So even when you slip, the goal isn't to be perfect. It's to keep voting for the person you want to be. Over time, that person becomes real. Over time, the line between who you are and who you're becoming disappears. You become consistent. You become resilient. You become unstoppable. So let's make this practical. Here's your challenge. Pick one tiny habit, just one, and commit to it for the next 30 days. It could be something as small as drinking a glass of water when you wake up, writing one line in a journal before bed, spending 5 minutes learning something new, taking one deep breath before reacting. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's meaningful to you. And then protect it. Don't break the chain. Make it your ritual. Because that's how transformation begins. It's not about adding 100 things to your routine. It's about mastering one thing until it becomes who you are. Once it's part of you, add another. Stack your habits like building blocks, one on top of the other, until they form a structure strong enough to carry your dreams. And when you start seeing results, and you will, don't stop. Don't let comfort steal your momentum. Remember, the reward for good habits is not just results, it's the peace of mind that comes from knowing you're in control of your life. That's the ultimate freedom. That's what we're all chasing, whether we realize it or not. A sense of control, a sense of growth, a sense of progress. And that's exactly what small habits give you. They hand you back the steering wheel of your own life. Because you're no longer being driven by impulse or emotion, you're being guided by intention. And intention is where transformation begins. So, as you listen to this, make a promise to yourself. Not a loud, dramatic promise. A quiet one. The kind that lives in your heart and moves in silence. Promise yourself that no matter how small the step, you'll keep taking it. Promise yourself that you won't let another year slip by waiting for motivation. Promise yourself that you'll build momentum, one habit at a time, until your life looks completely different. Because here's the truth. You already have everything you need. You already have the strength, the wisdom, the drive. You just need consistency. The discipline to do small things daily without expecting instant rewards. The patience to keep going when results are invisible. The belief that small steps still count, even when no one claps. That's the formula. That's the secret. Tiny habits, big change. Every time you follow through, you're rewriting your story. You're proving to yourself that you can change. You're proving that greatness isn't reserved for a few, it's available to anyone willing to start small and stay steady. And one day, without even realizing it, you'll look back and smile. Because the life you dreamed of won't feel like a dream anymore, it'll be your reality. You'll realize that every late night you pushed through, every morning you got up early, every small habit you protected was worth it. You'll understand that the big changes didn't come from one massive leap, but from thousands of tiny steps, repeated with faith and consistency. So don't wait for tomorrow. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for motivation. Start now. Start small, because one day, those small habits will build the big life you've always imagined. The life that's waiting for you. And when that day comes, you'll realize the truth I've been telling you all along. It was never about the size of your actions. It was always about the size of your commitment. So go ahead. Take that first tiny step today. Because these tiny little habits will make big changes in your life if you let them.